The UK is not the same anymore. It's not how it used to be. I remember back in the day, we're talking about 2002, 2001, when we used to work and send money back home. Even just sending £20 would go a very long way. In fact, I can't remember the time, but there was a time where a lot of people sent money back home, and this is how they managed to buy land. And I remember at the time when we used to work at the factories, there were actually people that were able to buy combis, trucks. There was actually a time where people used to buy these lorries, magonyets. They bought a lot of them at that time. It was easy. People were buying land. People were buying houses at that time. Of course, for me at that time, I missed the memo. I wasn't able to do that. So as things went on slowly, things started getting harder and harder. But where it really hit hard was when Zimbabwe started using the US dollar. I think that is where things really changed. So if you are looking at the UK now with the lens of how things used to be in 2001, 2, 3, and 2005, then you're just swimming against the current, because it's not the same anymore. In fact, it's worse, because there are so many factors now that have affected the money in the UK. I mean, the specifics, I even remember fuel was less than £1 per litre. I remember that time. Even groceries were so cheap around that time. So forget about sending money to Zimbabwe. I'm talking about what used to happen here. Things have changed. Fuel, rentals, everything now, if compared to how things used to be a few years ago, 2 decades ago, things have changed dramatically. So the reason why I'm making this video is to just remind people that when we make plans, we really have to consider quite a lot of things. And these are the sort of things I want to talk about today. The taxes specifically. My accountant told me that things are going to change for anyone who runs a limited company, because the government wants to try and raise as much money as they can, because they're in debt. I mean, at the moment, we're talking about 50 billion just on interest, to pay back on interest. And this country is not a country that produces a lot. It's a country that is, I think I did a video about this anyway. It's a country that relies on taxes and also financial services. There's no farming here. There's no manufacturing. There isn't those big factories. There's no mining. So there's no minerals to sell. So they're coming for those taxes big time. They're actually using AI. Now, this is what I found out on the internet, because when my accountant told me this, I went online and I was doing some research. And what I found really shocked me. They're going to be using AI to track all your sources of income against your profile. So let's say you're driving a very expensive car, right? Driving a very expensive car, and yet you're declaring that you're not making any profits, or you're declaring that you don't have any money when you do your self-assessment. Then you're a red flag. You have to explain those monies. If you earn money, let's say as a YouTuber, you have to declare that money, even if you're not even if you're not like a registered company. You have to declare that money because it needs to be taxed. That is how they're going to be raising money. They were quite successful in doing this same scheme to the rich. And from what I hear, they managed to recover about 1 billion. But that's way too far from 50 billion. So as it stands, this country is going to go through a lot as a country, because the amount of money they borrowed, especially going back to COVID, was a lot of money. This country is in a lot of debt. And raising that money is going to be very, very difficult. Which takes me now on to the next point. You see, things like council tax, even normal taxes, inflation, things are going to be going up. They're not going to get better. And you and me know. How are you going to pay off a debt? How is it going to be paid off? That means they have to keep squeezing and squeezing those people that go to work. They have to keep squeezing them. But we know now what's happening. They're squeezing everyone that's going to work. Prices are going higher. And the people now that were on benefits and used to have it easy, and I'm talking about the people who live in this country, the natives. When they get squeezed, you know what happens? They go to the street and then they blame the immigrants. And I'm sure this formula, you've heard it everywhere. South Africa, same thing. When the locals get hungry, they turn on the immigrants. So it's going to be very difficult to live in this country because there is no way that debt is going to be paid easily. You know, with other countries, okay, they can sell gold or the manufacturing, they'll just ramp it up and, but this country is different because there isn't any way of making money apart from mainly taxes and financial services, which is your loans and everything. So you'll find that in these agreements on mortgages and credit cards and car loans, they'll just ramp up the interest rate because it's within the terms and conditions. And sometimes there's nothing you can do about it because when we buy things, we buy them out of emotions. We don't buy them out of facts. We buy with emotions and then we justify with facts. So it's going to be very tough. Now, if you're planning retirement with this type of situation, it's going to be very hard. It's going to be very, very difficult. So one way could be, okay, when I finish paying my house, I'm going to sell it and then I'm going to go to Zimbabwe. When you go to Zimbabwe, you have to go through what I am going through right now and many others. Because setting up a business in Zimbabwe, because you're going to need money to live on. What's going to happen there? You're going to need some source of income. So either you sell the house completely here and then move to Zimbabwe, and then you just have to pray that whatever plan you have is solid to sustain you throughout your retirement. Otherwise, you're going to be going through so many situations where you're going to be losing money. You don't even have the know-how. Maybe all your years, 60 years, you've just been working. You have no idea how a business is run. You don't even know how management is done. You have no clue what is marketing, leadership skills. Maybe you might have leadership skills from work, but there's a lot of skills you need in order for you to what? To run a business. So I'm not saying this to make you feel depressed or anything. This is the reality of the situation here in the UK. So if we want to plan, we have to be making some serious decisions right now. Right now. There was a relative of mine that visited us a few months ago. So I said, so you know how it is when we talk. She said, you know what, I'm so tired, but I have to continue working. So I asked her, I said, but what's the problem? You have a house in Zimbabwe. So why can't you just go and live there? And her response to that, it really shocked me. Not in a bad way, but I just thought to myself, but I didn't even think about that. Because what she said in that response was, how am I supposed to survive? I just have a house. I can go there and sleep, right? And then what? What's my source of income? So I said, but you have a house. What do you mean source of income? I said, yeah. I might need to go to the hospital. I need fuel for my car. I might need to go out. Where's that money going to come from if I stop working right now? So it turns out, here, you're working, you buy a house back in Zimbabwe, but you're still tied into the job because that's your only source of income. Now, do you see how crazy that is? So it could be that she might be forced to work until she retires at this rate. And she's been having health issues. And she's not even close to the retirement age. Health issues. And this just shocked me. And in fact, it hit me hard because even the house that's there in Zimbabwe, there's relatives living there. Can you imagine? You go back now, the relatives have been living there for many, many years. And you think you can just go there and say, you know what? I'm back. Can you go now, please? Do you think that's going to work? I mean, for me, well, I'm a bit of a crazy one because once I'm back, and if you have to go, you have to go, but not everyone is like me. It becomes a family problem. So it's almost like you've bought that house for the relatives. Can you imagine? This is so scary. So then it begs the question, what are we doing? So we're buying the properties back home and you can't even live in it. That's one. Two, we can't even go back home and retire because you're going to need some sort of income in retirement. So you need some sort of a project. And I know a lot of you say to me, not everyone can be a farmer. Okay, fine. I understand. But Zimbabwe is a farming and mining country. So what you going to do? Zimbabwe is a farming and mining country. So what you going to do? That's the best we can do. We can't go into manufacturing of semiconductors. We can't. We don't have that technology. So even if you want to go into all this tech stuff, we can't. And frankly speaking, no one cares. No one cares. No one cares. So as it stands right now, we are now stuck in a situation where we have to make a plan for Zim. We have to make a plan, whether you like it or not. So, yes, I know some of you have strong opinions because you're like, no, I live here and that's it. It's going to come a time where when everything is all set up and everything is all good, I'll just say, you know what, goodbye England, like goodbye for good. Because I can't imagine still paying for electricity while you're not living in that country. You're still paying council tax. By that time, maybe it'll be $200 a month, council tax. Then you have your electricity. And then you have your gas. I don't know, some of these contracts, if you go on a 2-year contract, you still have to pay whether you're using it or not. So that's a tough one. Would you want to be spending that kind of money? I don't think so. So the other thing is, okay, my pension will be enough. Well, let's not fool each other here, because right now we know that the old people, right? The old people, some of them die, in their homes because they have to choose between heating or eating. And this is happening here in the UK. In the UK, it's happening every year. A lot of people die, especially the pensioners. And then, is that money going to be enough, really, in retirement? I don't think so. Of course, I'm not saying this is the situation for every single person. Some of you have really good jobs and you're putting in extra into your pension. But one thing I can tell you is, based on the trends and financials and information, or even online, there's trends. That money that is going towards the pension will be hit by inflation. It won't be the same amount anymore because they're not going to give you more. They'll give you what you're saving towards the pension, but they're not going to give you extra. No. So a lot of things are really changing in this country. And is it going to be safe? Because in these type of situations, when things go wrong, they always look for a scapegoat. And the scapegoat is always the immigrant. Yes, you may say, I've got a British passport and all of that, but the resentment that's going to be happening in the schools, at the workplaces, is going to be crazy. I mean, look at the demonstrations already, even in I think, was it last week? There was a crazy demonstration in London. Some of them are even saying, some people are even saying this was the largest one. And all this is targeted towards, it's all anti-immigration. So it's going to be a hostile place to live. And you know, when people are hungry, they go crazy. So will we be safe? No. And this brings me to the most important point, which is this is the time where that little that you have to make a plan to try and do something back home in Zimbabwe. Because at the end of the day, you want peace of mind. Peace of mind is one of the most important things, and it's very, very hard to get. And that should be what we're targeting. Peace of mind. Peace of mind, especially in old age. Stress itself can really cause a lot of problems health-wise. A lot of problems. So now this takes me to the next point, which is Kumusha investments. Guys, this thing, in my opinion, is a very good idea. Okay, let's sit down as diasporans who are positive-minded. Let's continue on the journey that we had started, and let's work towards something. I'm sure if we put all our brains together, we can come up with something amazing that benefits all of us. And I'm willing to be a part of it. But like I've always said, it has to be done properly, where everyone's money is safe and my reputation is safe. So it's a balance between the two, because I know how hard money is to get, especially here in the diaspora. I know how hard it is. Even if you were to put in 1,000, it's a lot of money. It may seem like it's not a lot of money, but the weight of it, to be able to save 1,000, it takes a lot of effort. So I understand that. That is why I want things to be correct and to be right. So head over to kumushainvestments.com. I'll leave a link in the video description below, and drop in your name, and let's start coming up with a plan. It's not too late, of how we can make ourselves comfortable in our retirement, or at least have something that generates generational wealth, because that is very important. Some of us, we have children, but we are probably thinking our kids will take care of us. That's the old African mentality. Yeah. But our children, some of our children are born here, they have a different mentality. And to be fair, they have their own challenges. So do you think they're going to be there worrying about you if they can't even take care of themselves? No, they can't. So it is very important that we understand and we realize that things are definitely changing here in the UK. They are changing. And for those of you that came a long time ago, we know where things have changed. And it's not easy. Things are getting harder and harder in the UK. Even if you have a business, the taxes are crazy. I remember one year, there was a year where the business made more than 80,000 and I qualified for VAT. Now, because my business is online, 20% was going every single month. 20% VAT. I can't claim that money back because everything is happening online. Can you imagine? So it's like you're punished for your business performing very well. But do you know how frustrating that is? No wonder why some businesses are moving out. They're moving out because it's way too much. No wonder why some businesses, they have offshore accounts. I'm talking about big businesses here. I'm not saying I'm on that level. But you'll find that Apple is registered in Ireland and not in America. Why? Taxes. So I rather have a lifestyle where I'm not worried about the taxes, but at least I can eat what I'm growing on the ground. And if I make, $100 here, $200 here, I'm content because I've got somewhere to live and I've got people around me, friends. The weather is good. I think that'll be a peace of mind for me. And that is something that you may need to consider for the future and for your retirement. Anyway, guys, I'd like to hear your thoughts. leave them in the comments box below. Until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll see you again in the next one. Take care.